started a car with us. My colleague here, ex-student Mei Chan, and I have a company called Immersive Ubiquity, in which we work on human-computer interface devices. Not so much for surveillance, but again, to the ends of moderating the sustainable concerns, right? They can easily be used for surveillance, but they can just as easily allow to show us our place in the world. So here are the colored walls, 4 of them. And in my talk, I'm going to double barrel this, perhaps, hold it down here. I want to talk about my working relationship to Tesla. I'm a Norwegian American Yankee. I want to say, and I'm also a vitalist, which I think Tesla was a vitalist. And I'm a little disappointed. We put Tesla up on that pedestal and make a cult out of him. I want to unscrew him from his pedestal, put him down here with us and say, brother, we got a lot to do. I'm looking out here at 200,000-year-old Savannah 8 mines. We have not changed in 200,000 years. 200,000 years ago, we were 20,000 species on the verge of extinction, and something happened. Probably our use with tools, probably some accident with large cats and dogs, but anyway, we jump cut to 200,000 years later. We are in this next 80 years will prove that we are in dire need to shift gears. So all this light talk about changing our carbon footprint and blah, 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 the stats here or there is not going to cut it. This is a radical era. Almost as much as the radical era was when we were numbering 20,000 beings 200,000 years ago. These are toys. This is the consumer item that comes for $80. I have about 5 or 6 of them. Minion's wearing the Google glasses. And I want to compare and contrast this to the use of the hand axe or the spear or fire or something and point to Tesla as a Promethean, almost mystic, mythical figure that said, here's fire, go do what you want with it. I came up with it, whatever, go use it. And that way we can unhinge him from the pedestal, say he's one of ours. He belongs to the world. Buckminster Fuller was just the same. You know, we've had a world of thousands of Teslas. And part of my talk here is how we ignore them. About 2 years ago, I was called in to write a grant by the Korean Minister of Culture. I live and work in Korea. I've had Mrs. Sampson as one of my students sitting right here, and I look at her and said, this chick is worth $100 billion. Perhaps I could change the course, not just of the Galaxy 5s you're wearing in the pocket right now. Maybe that was me that helped her innovate on that. But maybe I can have an impact with the world. Let's back on technology. So here's the game. Next 80 years, we need to do more than just gimmicks. We need to do more than just saying, "I'll keep your carbon footprint down to minimum." No, we need to radically change these things in our society. So I went up to Korea 2 years ago. My colleague Daniel Lee and I wrote a $700,000 grant. Sure, I can spend that money. And we had about 10,000 teachers come at us and say, the big lecture topic was finding Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs was a Tesla figure. Yeah, certainly was. I said, all right, my prognosis was, well, you ain't going to find them. Because what you do to crush the souls in each one of these students, we had a couple of teachers talk about soul crushing here a little before, is unbelievable. That's why you reverse engineer everything you get your hands on. It's not that the Yankees are more innovative or anything like that. It's just Steve Jobs happened by accident. Tesla happened by accident. We had Edison taking a poop on his head here and there to thwart his efforts in getting his good invention and deeds going. We must look at these innovators as brethren, not as cult figures, because we need to pass this on to our students and say, you can do it. Okay, I'm a professor at one of the most famous research institutes on the East Coast, Stony Brook. 3 generations academic. My daughter wants to be an academic too, so let me for 4 generations. Academia has changed almost to a pathetic dimension.
I love that.
Thank you. I remember going to my dad's lectures. He taught urban planning. And the students just came in from fighting the cops on the streets of Minneapolis, man. This was Minnesota. And they would live under their desks. They'd pop up with this vitalist energy, work on their projects of utopia. And then they did well. They went off to Harvard. They hired my dad. I'm looking at my ex-students as my colleagues here, too. We must, again, not create cult figures. We must, those of you working with DOD, get off of it. It's bad news. You all know it is. You're paying the devil. You know, do not. And if you are one of these materialist technophiles, get off of that too. If you're a mystic, get off of that too. We've got 80 years of an incredible agenda to do. So here's my plan. I not only talk, I talk 6 hours a day, so I'm not going to spare you guys this. My projects on the left are about this new plan. Andrew is here, and he actually inspired me to do some of this. It's actually using this. My forte amongst dilettantism is to do things with information in space. And here's what happened. The thing on the left, I have a couple of films of it, I'll just keep talking. I basically, my brainwaves roll into this program, wonderful program called Max MSP. I teach it to all my undergrads. You can chunk, it's coding for artists, believe it or not, to get both the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere working to make code. This is how my student started his air conditioner in the morning with his anger. And basically, I roll around this shape right here on the left is a family film from the 60s. You know, you roll it around, I am low, like this, which sends the 7, 8 megahertz to the skin of my face. Actually, to do this correctly, if you're one of these uptight technophilic materialists, I have to screw into the skull of my head and implant these. One day, I tell all my students, one day you're going to have this implanted in your head. They say, "Ah, Professor, you're too Orwellian. This will never happen." I said, "Who has cell phones?" And they go like, "Oops." I said, "Yeah, we must see the kind of lemming-like activity that technophilic behavior pushes us toward. One day you'll all have one of these screwed into your heads, because you won't get credit unless you do. You say, screw credit. I don't need it. I don't need one of these things screwed in my head." There's already been one arrest in California due to, they call them glass holes already. People wear Google goggles. But this is an amazing device if it is used correctly. Our company is trying to use all of these devices for therapy, feedbacks on sustainable behavior, and basically, again, as Heidegger said, using technology in the service of vitalist spirit. And the imperative is now, gang, 80 more years, and we will prove the existence, the further existence, the maintenance of our species, much the same as it was 200,000 years ago when there were only 20,000 of us. So we're using this, we're using the mind wave. What else are we using? We're using the LEAP. We're doing physical therapy programs with the LEAP. The way I teach on Monday nights, I have a workshop. No rules. This world is filled with rules, especially in a world that has to throw out 90% of the rules we've made. It's not a pyramid scheme. Students come in and I throw these things at them and say, "Here, try this. What do I do with the code? Here's some code. Work out the rest." "Oh, what do I do with the Google glasses?" Well, we could monitor the physical therapies. Well, I just had a back problem in the gym the other day. We could use this as a feedback while we're doing the connects, and so we can get the position in the correct calibration this way. See it here. And this is technology in the service of a use and a need and a problem. Let me actually, the double-barreled lecture on the left, if you wish to get the actual text, friend me on Facebook, whatever, you know, the usual means. So here it is. Our company, Immersive Ubiquity, has using all of these techie, nerdy gimmicks. And they're gimmicks. Again, this is close to a party gimmick. It only measures 6 to 8 hertz coming off your brain. I used to have the more expensive, Sam is a rep of the company, measures 5 emotions. I could never get beyond 3 emotions. And essentially, this is like an old-fashioned mask. The Greek actors used to wear the masks. And this is very similar to just wearing a mask. We see the activity in this. We coordinate the code from 4 or 5 of these different programs, and we work on therapies. I teach technoculture and the conjunction between art and technology. Very dire subject. We tend to consider our artists flakes, and they have no metrics and things like that. Artists, if they're tuned, just like Steve Jobs, are great visionaries. That guy was less of a technologist and more of a usability expert. You know, Steve Jobs, and he radicalized everything. Jump cut back to Korea 2 years ago. Blah, 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 blah. 10,000 teachers coming at us from Korea. And I've done the same thing in Singapore. I've lived and worked in Singapore for a year and a half, same thing. The government was laying down billions of dollars. I got, right away, I wrote a grant. I got close to $1 million to do these virtual, like, engineering stations or something like that. Simple. Over there, the money seemed to be easy, but it was all toward these ends of reverse engineering. And he said, man, this would be great. You're teaching us all about creativity. I was teaching these creativity workshops and just no rules. Let's go. And I taught it to Mrs. Sampson right there in my class 12 years ago and so forth. The point was, their system of Confucian test-taking would crush the soul of any innovation necessary to make in this century. Unfortunately, so will ours. That we've developed these institutionalized forms too much, with too much respect and reverence to these forms. The technocratic scientific culture says, watch your metrics, get your metrics, we've abolished intuition and collaboration. So fortunately, we left this cynical sort of postmodern era where everything was representation, and we've gone back to production. I'm very inspired by my undergraduates who talk about DIY culture and how the whole DIY culture is letting our young people start to think about activities. As a 4th generation, 3rd generation academic, I'm very despondent about the corporatization of academia. I come from a public university. I've taught at Smith, at Yale, at Harvard, at Princeton, at Bard. Waste your money. Waste your money. Just a pyramid scheme. And what we have to get back to now is a sense of where we pull this information. Okay, so where do we pull the information necessary to develop? And I'm taking the nature of this conference very seriously. How do we build a curriculum, not a Tesla curriculum, brother Tesla's curriculum to change the world, basically, in 80 years? How do we do it? We need millions of Teslas now. And we can't. We, as leaders, scientists, academics, can't crush the soul out of every kind of deviant we see, or every Steve Jobs that goes to his garage to invent or just studies typesetting at Portland University for half a semester. We need, as I told the very Confucian Minister of Culture of Korea, you need to respect these weirdos. You need to cultivate the weird and to not cookie cutter everything out of your system. And of course, the students were telling me, my Stony Brook students are, you know, Stony Brook only accepts 25% of those who apply. They apply to Harvard, Cornell, and Stony Brook. That's it. If the parents can afford Harvard, they go to Stony Brook. So they say, we got here because of our test scores. I say, okay, now forget them. Forget your test scores. You've got to save the planet. And that's not going to come through any preordained system. Let me just lead you through a couple of QuickTime things. This is, thank God I have it pre-made. These are my emotions. I get very excitable. Pushing and pulling on these forms. Again, relating to Tesla. Tesla said there's this underpinning current to all of the universe, 7 hertz. This is my 7 hertz moving up and down with my emotions. I work with Tommy Martinez at HarvestWorks. If you ever need coding, go to him. Plug for Tommy. He actually is working with architects so that we can actually freeze this here and print it out as a rapid prototype solid. Essentially like what? Star Trek, the teleporter or whatever. Pardon? You tell me.
I don't know. I'm asking you.
It's exciting. It's beautiful.
Yeah, but that's like
It's a what?
You're doing art. You're not your art.
Yes, that's permitted too.
Yeah.
And when we do this art, to print it out, to say that we've done it, this is an interesting question. Everything is possible when you need to save yourself. There's no such thing. All of here, we've been conditioned in school to disrespect dilettantes. We need dilettantes who respect survival. That is the MO for this century. And we see a lot of tinkerers in the room. Continue to tinker. Yes?
You're operating at Schumann resonance.
7.8 megahertz?
7.83 hertz.
That's the underpinning to the universe. There you go.
It's also the resonant oscillation of the cavity between the Earth's surface and the ionosphere.
So that's with my little range between calmness, I don't know if you can see with the walls, and excitement. Here's another point. I like these points, and I can open up quickly for discussion while we have it. I have many hundreds of papers on this aspect. The point is, there's no mysticism behind that. It's real. It's vital. A collective of 20,000 savannah apes can get together and say, we need to save our asses, basically, because otherwise we're doomed. A collective of 7 billion people need to get together. We no longer can crush the weirdos. We can't punch it out with cookie cutters. There's no paint by numbers, because there's no situation like this ever in the history of our species. And guess what? There's a lot of mystics or materialists who say, we caused this? No, we didn't. We just acted according to our natures. We are not stewards of nature. We're not the foremen. We're not the bosses of nature. That's another misconception behind Cartesianism. We're part of it. It's in us. It's through us. And these devices with our little startup, with Farshad Fazli, who introduced me to all the Teslas here last year, we're trying to just monitor and get feedbacks. And like you said, art part, I love it. I go to the gallery crawl every Thursday night, look at the art. To me, that's like a canary in the coal mine. It tells me what is the fiat currency of my culture. What is the gold standard? What is hype? When's the canary dead? I heard a lot of dead canaries of late. And what can I not do just to mope around and sit on my hands and say, oh gosh, Weltschmerz, it's doomed. But to get up and actually do this. My old brain actually just started coding like 4 years ago. So that was kind of a shift for me, and guess where I learned it? On YouTube. So these delivery systems help us see this. Another thing, as a third-generation academic, I'm intensely interested in is bringing down the walls of academia. It's the last great pyramid scheme. If you've gone there, you paid too much. It is only who taught Tesla. I think, like John Stuart Mill, he was a great autodidact. We need to cultivate autodidacts. To pay, I taught at Bard. What's Bard? My daughter went to George Washington. Way too much. $60,000 a year. That's obscene. Obscene. And what I have to say about that is, again, respecting the weirdness, respecting the autodidacts. Our brother Tesla was one of the great autodidacts of the world. Buckminster Fuller flunked out of Harvard. So did Bill Gates, but I consider Buckminster Fuller a greater flunk out of Harvard than Bill Gates. So feedbacks toward the end of sustainability. Let me just roll through this. Sam, give me a note if I'm talking too long. Okay, here's one of the points I actually apply. Because I'm interested in psychology, of course, I teach technoculture. I'm interested in the Freudian relationship between Tesla and Edison. I did a lot of searching on, apparently they're going to do a movie starring Nicolas Cage and Christian Bale on the relationship with Tesla and Edison. Okay, I'm a Freudian, love Freud. Let me go back there. Tesla's definitely the beta male. He ain't got the cash, man. The rest of them, Mellon is out in the Edison, Mellon, Westinghouse, they're the alphas. Look at this through the eyes of the Savannah ape. Tesla comes up as a Promethean figure and says, we need to change things. And Edison says, oh, I got an idea, DC. And Tesla said, that sucks. That's too many step-down stations, it's not going to work. Very simple relationship and Freud outlines this in Totem and Taboo, where the engine of history has often been, ladies take note, I teach this in conjunction with technology and feminism, this battle between alpha males and beta males. The beta male, according to Freud, in this small sliver-thin section of totem taboo, says the beta males must overcome the alphas because they often lead us to duty.
How did you see George Washington? Say George Westinghouse for the universe.
He kind of played both sides. He's an opportunist. He's trying to overcome J.P. Morgan, and this was the era, like this era, of the great robber barons too. So the overcoming was extremely important. Tesla, unfortunately, here and there was a pawn. Was a pawn. Our brother Tesla, not the cult figure, our brother Tesla tried to make these useful objects happen. Everything you see in this room is because our brother tried. DC did not come out of DC power did not come out of Niagara and so forth. So Freud says, well, if this engine for the past 6,000 years has been the overcoming of the alpha by the beta, we have a pure example in this relationship of Tesla to Edison. Two nerds head to head. Who won? Edison won. Fortunately, we see the products of the rest of this later. Our teleological efforts with our small company, as I make my students my colleagues, as my dad made his students his colleagues, which I think is a great, you professors in the room, that's the greatest gift you can give to your students, is not make products, but turn them into colleagues, is that we've devised this company as feedback loops. How am I doing? How's my carbon footprints? What are we doing tomorrow? Why are we doing this? How do we remove the gimmick aspect? How do we make beautiful art? How do we make art that actually inspires and makes people question more than gives you answers? How do we not work for the DoD just because we want to pay rent? Why? Because a third of what Stony Brook pulls down is DoD. You know, as the #1 institution, and our MIT constantly, half is supplied by DoD. It's a shame.
I think Mandela was an alpha male or a beta male.
I think Winnie was the alpha. Mandela, right? Yeah, I think he had some. I think he was a realist. I think he had his thugs behind him. All this. I think he was a great man, but he was acquainted with realpolitik, and things that Winnie did were not so cool in terms of huggy, touchy, feely type stuff. I think he knew how to further. Same thing with almost time. Okay, let me just wrap this up. I'd rather, as I said, I talk 6 hours a day, so I'm tired of talking. I want to inspire, basically. I want to show. I want to say, show you an imperative. We are doomed in the next 80 years, unless all you academics scrap about 90% of our cookie, including me, our cookie cutter way of going about this. I want to take Brother Tesla off the effing pedestal, put him right down with us and say, how is your legacy carried? And how can we act along with Buckminster Fuller, along with Thoreau, along with tons of others? And quickly open to questions. How does this work? Why did it work? Because I'm a guy of the hands as well as the eye. I want to not just talk about things, I want to make these things happen. My ex-students, colleague, I got a couple other ex-students in the room. I want to give the legacy that we have a community. Another last thing about Confucian systems of education, which I've lectured on in Singapore. I lived in Singapore a year and a half. They just pulled up the cash, man. Whenever you had a question, they just whipped out the cash in the tens of thousands, 60,000 every year in grants every year. That's the solution every year. It's not a solution. My last kind of reaction, if there's no questions, yes.
Yeah, is that a sensor over your pineal gland?
No, there's one to the ear, there's one to the eye. This is like the Model T of neurosensors. It only does 2 emotions, but it does it well. That, we spent $1,000 on another neurosensor. We had to scrap it because it was just too complicated. This is like Model T. Comes in black, goes forward, reverses. There you go.
Can you go in reverse, and so if you're angry, you're happy?
Calibration is very difficult. If I'm like angry, and again, it's this masking. I'm shooting the hertz to my face, and we're actually working, you know, with autistic Asperger kids to say what are these micro gestures? See, everyone's speaking up here, and they're not quite in control of their micro gestures. What does it mean with the primate who's in control of the micro gestures? This is only controlled by what you shoot to your face. in terms of electricity. Otherwise, you got to drill in your skull. Or otherwise, you have those way sexy things where you add the lube and you do all that sort of stuff. Sam, what about us?
Steve Erickson.
Oh, one more question.
Yeah, it's going to be used for bad.
For what?
It's probably already being used for bad.
Oh, yeah, but also,
Well, it
how do you
is
reverse
the
reverse?
first censure
I mean, you're also asking how do you reverse
Yeah.
negativity? How do you reverse?
No, but if they're mapping the brain, they can
These
do.
things are
If
you're not hungry,
so a lot to do about
Well,
muscles.
because
We're actually
the
trying to work
other part of your
on
question is how do you
trauma
reverse
therapy
reverse?
type
How do you
things.
reverse
Sort of
negativity?
whatever the control
Yep.
environment,
Deep
rework
power,
those things
how do you
and then reconstitute them.
It's always the second question. It's been not asked.
Yep.
You start with me.
What?
To ask it twice. You ask something important.
Yep.
But you gotta know if you can reverse anger with the air conditioner off.
Yep. Oh, use
These people using anger to turn the air conditioner off.
yeah, so you get angry, you're hot and bothered.
So, no, use anger to turn the air conditioner off.
Yep.
So you reverse anger to whatever level, turn off anger. Is the air conditioner going to go off?
Yeah. What do you do?
I'm an architect.
So you're just here for the conference?
It's worked for 80 students. My specialty is actually immersive environments. And the greatest immersive, or one of the greatest, is like to be
So you know him?
to be totally absorbed by what's in front of you, and you forget time, you forget space, and whatever. This would actually, like these, would actually set a roadblock.
I live in
Speed bumps.
Vermont, so.
I don't need to be told when I'm in it.
My
But
friend's
to answer your question, it takes beautiful
documentary
art,
producer,
works on a number of art
formerly of
but
Connecticut,
this
came back
does
up home
and
and
help
helping to move out for.
get a feedback to like
Yeah.
how
We do
am
a
I
documentary
doing?
on plastic.
So you're not doing so well.
No, we did the ceramic turbine for generating electricity.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You did documentary?
Today, yeah.
So I do agree.
This morning?
Yeah.
You already showed it?
Yeah.
Do you have a car? Because I do a little film festival. It's not really a film festival. I don't know how to reach you. Can I find your online, that documentary?
You can wear this, it's tough to keep on, you can wear it in your sleep, I've done it, it's supposed to record that, I'm very
Francis is my,
fascinated in dreams. Dreams is like, not as mystical things, but
senior
as
partner.
traces of,
You probably can't
picture
read
on
that. It's so
depression,
small. It's for people under
Repressive
30.
behavior, you can record it, so does a Fitbit.
So
Ming
Francis
and
is
I
a
are
partner?
working with the
Yeah,
Fitbit
senior
to,
partner.
working with a number of these devices to mirror back
How do I
the
reach find
individual
you?
picture of how you're doing, how you sleep, and so forth. Other questions? Yeah.
Are you going to be here till the end?
Yes.
Would you then have us to believe that?
Nice. And are you here tomorrow or do you leave tomorrow?
I believe we're here till tomorrow.
Thank you. And do you know Phillip?
You seem to be implying that
Him no.
Steve Erickson. Very nice.
technically,
Andrew.
Tesla has never referred to
And
anything as.
We'll do a little film festival. It's by your film interests me.
Frequency.
Francis is the documentary producer, and he's the one that.
The fact that
Well,
the Earth
we were moving,
was
so
frequency.
ended up being my camera that got brought down, not his. But he, we were cleaning out his attic, and he has all the film editing equipment for 30 or 40 years ago. Yeah, I got all sorts of projectors.
As I said in the beginning,
Yeah.
your first, no, it's not a contract.
You wouldn't believe. For professional film, you have a calibrator for calibrating the tape with the film. I'm not going to throw it out.
Well, here's
You
the
should see.
diagram exactly.
I have like a 1900s tripod wood that holds a camera that's massive. I have a whole truckload of stuff.
He needed patronage like the Renaissance painters needed patronage. Those people were also robber barons. They're great individuals. Here's another point, maybe my main point. We don't need to live in an era that needs a transcendental semiosis. We don't need a life outside of this. I'm not saying most of what's propping up our economy now is fiat currency, fake money. So, big deal. We're living in an illusion here now. Two, We need to cut down the transcendental semiotics of like, oh, it'll be a better world for the proletariat. Oh, it was much better under capitalism. Oh, it was much better under Bush. No, we're here, we're now. Whether you had a current or not, I don't really care. I'm not a mystic, nor do I think Tesla was a mystic. Just saying, if I could get the silver bullet, we can hook to the right answer, what it would take to get us out of the problem. A very problem focused. We're in a dire problem right now. It is our transcendental semiotics, cult heroes is a transcendental semiotic, that actually get us further into trouble rather than untangling us from it. I hope I answered your question. Communist capitalists, I don't even look at China. I don't think you can think those two things are exactly opposed. I'm done if there are no other questions. Thank you.
On another note, I actually had the opportunity to work with Professor Phillip Baldwin, and as we demonstrated the ability to tap into the vortex coils and literally pump out that frequency that would be excited through your neural excitations, and literally make magnets move and basically shake tables. It was really interesting experiment. It was really good. Ladies and gentlemen, moving on. We have next another great guest, Mr. Mentorship. He is a graphic novelist, a music producer, a tech entrepreneur. Mentorship is the author of The Inventor, a graphic novel based on the true story of Nikola Tesla as he battled his mentor turned rival, Thomas Edison, in the AC/DC wars to invent the 20th century and create the electrical era. Since its release, The Inventor has become the best-selling nonfiction graphic novel and is now being used in schools as part of a new and innovative approach to visually engage kids to read while inspiring them to learn about history, art, science, literature, STEM, and entrepreneurship. Reve is also an engineer, artist, music composer, producer for the electronic dance pop group Renaissance, and CEO of Helios Entertainment, an award-winning creative technology firm that develops socially empowering content to artistically engage kids and adults into learning through graphic novels, music, games, film, and digital media. Reve and his work has been featured in WSJ, Bloomberg, Wired, Washington Post, Huffington Post, VentureBeat, and numerous other media outlets. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Reve.
Hello? Okay. You can hear me. How's everyone doing?
Do you guys hear me like this? Yeah. Okay, that's probably better. Oh, it's recording. Okay.
Yeah. Right. How's this one? I'll figure it out. Okay, so I'm here to tell you today how a graphic novel on Nikola Tesla is changing the way we view education today, actually even approach education today. So right now, there are 42 million adults that cannot read past 5th grade. There's 1 million kids a year dropping out of school, and 1 out of every 4 kids today are going to grow up not knowing how to read. On top of that, we have a serious STEM deficiency going on. We're now ranked 25th in math and 17th in science, yet we're going to produce 1.2 million STEM-related jobs over the next 10 years, but only fulfill about 1/3 of them. So what's going on with our education system today that's allowing this to happen? Well, I believe we fundamentally are not engaging our kids. In fact, I think we're using a 20th century teaching approach in a 21st century classroom.
Lost me. Hello? And it can't work. And here's why. In the 21st century, we're rapidly evolving into what I call a hyper-visual culture. Right now, we're sharing over 500 million pictures a day, and that's doubling every year. So I'm sure most of you here are on Facebook, but kids today are growing up with apps like Instagram and Snapchat, where all they see are pictures with the caption of a few words just to give them context. So these pictures speak 1,000 words to these kids, and that's enough to tell them a short story. But then they'll scroll through 10 of these pictures in less than a minute, and essentially just digest 10,000 words of information in a really short amount of time. But then they go to school, and we give them a textbook, and they open this book up, and all they see are words. And we listen,